The last time I saw the sky turn amber and wash everything in a golden haze, I was a child. My mother pointed upward, her eyes filled with a bittersweet awe as she explained the phenomenon. It signaled a shift in the Earth's atmosphere, a warning that would eventually prove humanity's greatest undoing. Back then, no one truly understood what was happening beneath our feet. The ground trembled almost imperceptibly, glaciers melted, and strange magnetic disturbances plagued our technology. Politicians insisted it was a passing issue, that we just needed more robust infrastructure. Scientists sounded frantic alarms, proclaiming the need for immediate action. But once the cataclysm came, it was far too late. Earth was ripped apart, splintered in a colossal chain reaction. Now, we float in the remains, vast shards of rock laden with the nostalgic ruins of cities, farms, and roads. The few of us who survived quickly realized that the only way to endure this cosmic scattering was to enclose ourselves in artificial gravity domes. Each dome clings to a drifting fragment of the planet, holding pockets of breathable air snatched from the vacuum of space. Nobody is sure exactly how long these domes will last, or if we can ever find a new home. Like many children who grew up within one of these pressurized bubbles, I've never really felt a stable Earth beneath my feet. My earliest memories revolve around maglev belts that allowed us to hop from one chunk of rock to another. Those belts were once smooth, advanced technology, but now they sputter unpredictably, patched together by mechanics who've learned to fix them on the fly. Our electricity comes from battered solar panels scavenged either from the old satellites that still drift among the rubble or the surface of battered space stations. When we're fortunate, we find ancient nuclear cooling rods or leftover generator parts from pre-cataclysmic Earth, though harnessing them is dangerous work. Radiation seeps into the dust, contaminating the metal fragments we so desperately need to recycle. Yet these grim realities have become the pillars of survival in our new normal. Adapt quickly, innovate fearlessly, and guard your resources with your life. We live in the largest dome on the fragment called Arcadia 1. The decision to name it so was a hopeful gesture from the first settlement wave, a nod to some form of idyllic utopia the founders desperately wished to create in spite of everything. Optimism was the mother's milk of our earliest generation. Colonists insisted on schools, clinics, libraries, facilities that tried to preserve the essence of civilization. They rummaged through the ruins of what once were major cities, extracting whatever books, computers, or scientific equipment they could salvage. 100 years on, those items remain in use, though maintained with tenuous knowledge and a declining pool of spare parts. We've become scavengers of our own heritage, rummaging through the disjointed skeleton of Earth, seeking fragments of our past to preserve what's left of our future. Where I live, inside one of the smaller residential modules, the walls are always damp from condensation. The climate control is patchy at best, so mold speckles corners and ceilings, creating a perpetual musty odor that saturates clothing and hair. Our artificial sky is produced by layered screens that shift from dim to bright, simulating day and night. When the system falters, we can lose our sense of time entirely. Food is grown in vertical farms lit by red and blue LED arrays. Crops are limited: lettuce, tomatoes, soy for protein, small amounts of wheat for bread. Meat is nearly mythical. Scientists have tried to clone or grow synthetic protein slabs, but resources are too scarce to devote to large-scale livestock efforts. Occasionally, traders arrive from other fragments with freeze-dried fish or a chunk of rehydrated beef, turning mealtimes into feasts reminiscent of stories told by the older generations. Every resident of Arcadia 1 knows we're not the only dome in existence. Hundreds of them are scattered across an archipelago of planetary debris, many hidden behind layers of cosmic dust. Communication is sporadic and often requires line-of-sight wireless to bounce. Something about the cosmic radiation and shifting gravitational fields scrambles signals over longer distances. Still, wanderers and traders appear, crossing the vacuum in specialized suits that rely on microthrusters and tether lines. They come in search of items they can't manufacture themselves, certain metals, specialized medical supplies, or seeds for new types of crops. Their presence guarantees that arcs of commerce still linger in this broken world. But these travelers bring more than goods. They share stories, secrets, and warnings about the unscrupulous raiders who roam the debris fields, swooping in on unsuspecting domes to loot their resources. My father, Elias, is a scrapper. Each day he dons a patched EVA suit and heads out through the airlock to explore new pockets of wreckage. Sometimes he picks through piles of twisted steel that still bear the logos of once mighty corporations. At other times he finds lumps of bedrock layered with fossils that speak of ages long erased by the cataclysm. He brings these items back to the salvage yard on Arcadia 1, trades them for the vacuum-sealed meals that sustain our family, and occasionally barters for luxuries like dried spices or a bottle of homemade liquor. As a child, I watched him leave with a tightness in my chest, scared that one day he might not return. Outside the dome, the hazards are countless: razor-sharp metal edges, hidden radiation pockets, or simply drifting out of reach of our maglev lines. But we all owe our existence to risk-takers like him. Without them, the domes would have fallen into ruin long ago, starved of resources and raw materials. One evening, Father came back later than usual, his oxygen gauge dancing on empty. He stumbled into the decompression chamber with a triumphant grin plastered across his face. From beneath his arm, he produced a battered black case about the size of a large toolbox, sealed tight with a combination lock. I remember the glow in his eyes as he showed it to me. "Something old, something new. Something that could change our lives, Lily," he whispered. His words erupted in a cough, and the dusty residue inside his suit clung to his skin in strange patterns. We tried for hours to crack the code, to no avail. Father insisted it belonged to some advanced research facility from before the cataclysm, a place rumored to have dealt in gravitational technology. But even though we were never able to open it, the possibilities teased at our imaginations. The next day, rumors spread. Some traders overheard Father bragging at the salvage yard about his find a potential game changer, said to hold secrets for advanced dome technology. No one had to be told that a relic like that brought danger. Soon, Father was approached by representatives from two different alliances. The first offered a comfortable life in exchange for exclusive access to whatever the black case contained. The second threatened him if he refused to share. Torn between wanting a safer life for our family and the moral duty to share any windfall with the entire settlement, Father hesitated. The lure of potential wealth was matched only by the risk of attracting the attention of raiders lurking on the outskirts. Meanwhile, I watched from the sidelines, uncertain whether this black case truly promised salvation or was just another false hope fueling the incessant scramble for supremacy among floating shards. Raider attacks had been on the rise, targeting vulnerable domes and exploiting the fear that coursed through each fragile settlement. While institutions existed, makeshift governments for each dome, there was no overarching authority capable of providing consistent protection. Arcadia 1 maintained an armed security force, but it was barely enough to patrol the perimeter. Whenever a drifting fragment passed by at close range or an unidentified airlock connection was attempted, alarms blared through the dome, sending people into bunkers or preparing them to fight. A few days after Father's discovery, we had one such alarm. I remember the metallic clang reverberating through the corridors, each echo raising the panic in my heartbeat. Sirens wailed, and the artificial lights flickered to red emergency mode. People rushed for the sealed pods in the basement, or pressed themselves against the port windows trying to catch a glimpse of what or who threatened us. No major breaching attempt followed, but the tension never receded. I overheard the local militia discussing a suspicious craft that had docked at a nearby fragment. Whispers circulated that the raiders might be in search of our newly rumored treasure. That night, while Father pored over old textbooks and codebreakers, I took a walk along the dome's perimeter wall. Through the reinforced plexiglass, chunks of earth drifted under the distant glow of the stars. An enormous piece of what must have once been Earth's mantle had a shimmering cityscape perched on its surface, crumbling towers half toppled and dotted with patches of life. My breath fogged the glass as I gazed at the spectacle, a silent testament to both humanity's resilience and its fragility. Outside, I saw the faint reflection of lights, a sign of a nearby settlement. Or maybe it was a drifting craft. Either way, it felt foreboding. Much to our surprise, the black case was opened not by a scientist or a codebreaker, but by a small mechanical glitch. While tinkering with a magnetic device used to calibrate the artificial gravity, my father inadvertently triggered a spark that shorted half the lights in our apartment. In that sudden flicker, the lock on the black case clicked open, its electronic circuits clearly sensitive to the exact charge Father had unleashed. Inside lay a set of delicate instruments, sleek rods of unknown metal, and a disc etched with cryptic inscriptions. The rods appeared to slot into the disc, forming a structure that might have been a prototype for something akin to a gravitational stabilizer. A wave of excitement filled our cramped living space. Father's eyes lit up like I'd never seen before, and for a moment it felt like a piece of old Earth magic had returned. We couldn't keep such a discovery hidden for long. Word spread quickly. Everyone in Arcadia 1 wanted to know if this device could be replicated, if it could enhance or expand our dome's gravitational hold, perhaps even reduce our resource consumption in maintaining them. People whispered about forging new domes on unclaimed fragments, on harnessing more territory for farmland, or constructing safer routes between allied shards. The hopes grew like a fever, especially among those of us who had lived with a perpetual sense of doom. We needed a spark of inspiration, and Father's find provided exactly that. It didn't matter that we didn't fully understand its function, or that many doubted whether such a device could be reproduced. Rumor alone was enough to rally the settlement. That was precisely the moment the raiders chose to strike. Not in broad daylight with alarms ringing, but under the dome's simulated night cycle, when half the population was asleep and the militia was at minimal patrol. They hacked the proximity sensors, slipped through a compromised airlock, and glided silently into the heart of Arcadia 1. I was jolted awake by muffled thuds and the faint glow of flashlights dancing across the corridor. Father motioned for me to stay in my room, pushing me gently into a hidden closet. Through the narrow slits, I saw a group of dark figures with metal plating stitched onto their suits, guns strapped to their shoulders. They looked almost specter-like, predatory in their silence. My heart hammered against my ribs as the intruders spread out, rummaging, smashing doors, demanding the black case. Father confronted them with a makeshift plasma torch in hand, but they overpowered him almost instantly. The last I saw of him that night, he was gagged and dragged away before my mother's terrified eyes. The raiders took the black keys, along with the rods and disc that might have signaled a new future. Once they had gotten what they came for, they made a swift exit. Before they left, they disabled a crucial generator, plunging large sections of the dome into darkness. I emerged from my hiding place, trembling and devastated, stifling sobs as I tried to make sense of it all. But my mother's horrified stare told me we didn't have time to mourn. The dome's systems were compromised, and if we didn't fix them quickly, thousands of people could suffocate as oxygen recyclers failed. We acted fast. The salvage yard mechanics and local engineers worked side by flashlight, patching the generator to keep life support operational. As we toiled, the adrenaline coursed through my veins, a mixture of fear and desperation, forging solidarity among the residents. In the darkness, we were forced to rely on faith in one another. Even though Father was gone, the knowledge he had unleashed couldn't be entirely erased. He had told a few close friends the details of his discovery, scribbling down sketches of the rods and the disc. We knew the basic concept. The device could theoretically plug into our existing gravity modulators. If we could replicate it, we might unlock the path to safer interfragment travel, or even unify the shards under one large structural network. But we lacked the original components. The raiders had them, along with my father, whose expertise might be coerced at gunpoint. Soon, a rescue expedition was proposed, a ragtag group of militia, scavengers, and anyone willing to volunteer. We had to track down the raiders, retrieve the device, and, above all, save Father. To do that, we needed a location. Clues pointed us to a nearby fragment known as the Gorgon Shard, a place rumored to harbor lawless settlements and black market traders. At the heart of Gorgon Shard was a shattered city orbiting a chunk of Earth's iron core, kept stable by multiple illegal gravity domes. It was said that those living in Gorgon Shard dealt in anything from stolen shipments of oxygen filters to human trafficking, a dark, treacherous place, but if Father was anywhere, it would be there. I insisted on joining the rescue team. My mother forbade it at first, but eventually conceded that I was old enough, and my knowledge about Father's device might prove invaluable. We traveled in a small beat-up craft whose hull had seen better days, guided by short-burst transmissions from Allied scouts. Moving from Arcadia 1 to Gorgon Shard was like traversing a cosmic labyrinth. We maneuvered around rotating fragments that could crush us if our trajectory was miscalculated, ducked under twisted metal spires, and tried to avoid drifting satellites. After what felt like an eternity, we reached Gorgon Shard's perimeter. The structure there was a hodgepodge of stolen technology, half a dozen domes fused together in a patchwork arrangement. A black market bustled within, as we could see from the flickering lights behind the dome walls. We docked inconspicuously in a derelict bay, breathing shallow as we waited anxiously for our infiltration plan to commence. Our group of 6 split into pairs, each tasked with a specific mission: sabotage the raiders' ships, find Father, locate the missing device. I was paired with a woman named Dari, a skilled engineer who had once fought off a band of pirates with nothing but a welding torch. The corridors of Gorgon Shard were claustrophobic, each turn revealing dimly lit stalls of merchants hawking questionable wares, eyes darting our way to assess whether we were potential customers or threats. We passed makeshift living quarters stacked with boxes of stolen goods, and more than once we had to duck behind crates to avoid roving guards who wore the same metal-studded suits I had seen in Arcadia 1. Eventually, we found an airlock that matched the coordinates from a scout's tip, a private docking area for the raiders. Dari hacked the keypad and we slipped inside. The interior corridor led us to a reinforced lab, or what passed as one, scattered with parted-out electronics. My father was there, shackled, bruised but alive, forced to dismantle the black case's contents for their captors. A surge of relief flooded me, but I knew better than to let my guard down. Several armed guards hovered around him, their attention fixated on the device as Father explained the gravitational field equations they wanted to replicate. Dari winked at me, and we enacted our plan. She lobbed a small EMP grenade into the corridor. The lights flickered, and a beep signaled the disabling wave that shorted the guards' weapons. In the few seconds of confusion that followed, we lunged. The fight was short but brutal, with a few of our allies joining in from behind, corralling the raiders. We freed my father, who clutched me with desperate gratitude. In a frantic scramble, we grabbed what remained of the rods and disc. Some pieces had already been fitted into new devices, cobbled together contraptions the raiders planned to sell. Father, badly bruised, insisted on bringing those prototypes along. He said we owed it to Arcadia 1 to see if these modifications could help our dome. The standoff ended with the remaining raiders bound and gagged, left for the Gorgon Shard authorities to deal with, if that settlement even had such a thing as proper law enforcement. Perhaps the black market dwellers would mete out their own form of justice. We made our escape, rejoining the rest of the rescue team and returning to our craft. My father clung to the prototypes as if they were the only thing that mattered, his eyes brimming with a mixture of pain and unwavering resolve. I realized then how much he believed in the potential for rebuilding. We navigated the cosmic maze back to Arcadia 1, battered but victorious. In the days that followed, Father worked with the settlement's remaining scientists to reverse engineer the gravitational device. With each test, we refined its design, inching closer to a technology that could stabilize and potentially link multiple fragments together in a safer orbit. We would no longer remain isolated, vulnerable pockets of humanity. At least, that was the dream. Living on these drifting shards has taught us that community is all we truly have. When broken pieces come together, they can create something stronger than the sum of their parts. Even as we face repeated threats, diminishing resources, and the encroaching darkness of the endless void, we refuse to be counted out. The fragmented earth may never resemble the home we once knew. The land beneath our feet may always feel unsteady. The sky above may be just a projection. Yet, as I walk through the corridors of Arcadia 1, I see determination etched into every face. Parents pass knowledge to children in improvised classrooms. Traders embark on risky journeys between domes, bridging distances in search of mutual gain. Mechanics refine glitching machinery, patching and welding to keep life support operational for one more day. Engineers, father among them, labor feverishly to harness the gravity device's power for the good of all shards. Many in our settlement will never see a real night sky sparkling above unbroken continents. But we carry our planet's legacy within us, the capacity for rebuilding, for cooperation, for humility in the face of the cosmos. Each floating shard of Earth holds stories from before the cataclysm, from a time when people roamed entire continents without fear of being sucked into the vacuum of space. The old Earth is gone, and in its place, we've built a new existence. Precarious yet somehow hopeful, we've shed certain illusions of unending growth and invulnerability, learning that survival is a delicate balance of technology, compassion, and relentless perseverance. Father still has nightmares about the moment the planet tore itself asunder. Though I was too young to remember that day, the stories he shares paint a portrait of deafening cracks, mountainous eruptions, and a global quake that ended everything in a matter of hours. Even now, the memory haunts him, a constant reminder of the fragility of worlds. Yet every time he recounts the tale, he ends with a faint smile, as though the horror is offset by what we've managed to salvage. The Leadership Council at Arcadia 1 discusses forming coalitions with other domes, uniting salvage routes and shared scientific research to one day create a stable, multi-dome network. We don't know if such an alliance can span enough shards to recreate a semblance of a planet. Maybe we'll forever remain a diaspora scattered among the stars. Regardless, we'll find our way to endure. For all of us in Arcadia 1, my family, the volunteer militia, the traders and farmers and mechanics, life is a series of precarious steps on a shattered ground. Yet we keep stepping, forging new pathways between fragments, guided by faint beacons of hope. Each victory in our fight for survival, each child that takes a breath of dome-silted air, each seed that sprouts under LED glow reminds us that we haven't given up, even in the silence of space, where Earth now orbits as a ruin. Our hearts beat together. We uphold what remains of humanity, determined to make these broken shards a home. The old world is no more. But as we piece together the fragments and harness new technologies, we glimpse the faint promise that maybe, just maybe, we can keep living on the remains of our shattered Earth, rebuilding something resembling a future.